Good morning, this is Rich Nelson with Allendale with a special update for you. Today's date is October 12th of 2017. Now with today's date, of course, we have our monthly supply-demand report from USDA. A lot of excitement going on, a lot of market movement here. Let's go ahead and go right through the numbers and actually discuss what this means for markets and further discussion on price from here on out. Now, as far as corn, USDA made some moderate adjustments here for today's balance sheets. Keep in mind, for old crop, USDA starts out with the balance sheet by dropping old crop stocks. Simply from that September 29th grain stocks report, we know we had smaller corn stocks than previously thought. So USDA revised those down from 2.350 billion bushels to now 2.295. That was of no surprise to the trade. Now, over on new crop, USDA certainly touched a lot of areas of discussion here. First point of all, corn planted acres were dropped by about 500,000 acres. Keep in mind, this is the first report where USDA begins incorporating the crop insurance data, which we have since August and September, and now with new crop insurance numbers for October as well. These numbers are finally incorporated. So lower corn acres are seen, and that helped offset some of the increase in corn yields USDA found. The USDA raised yields for the nation as a whole up from 169.9 to now 171.8. So much higher than the trade was expecting, but that was partially offset with the higher acres. Now, as far as total production, that was raised from 14.148 billion bushels to now 14.280 billion bushels. So on this one, higher production, and going across the numbers as far as demand, we did see some feed residual raised by about 25 million bushels here. No change as far as ethanol, and no change as far as exports. So new crop stocks, compared with last month's 2.335, 2.340. So lower corn stocks on the old crop side, but that was certainly made up for a little bit with the new crop production numbers. So really, corn stocks left unchanged almost since the September report. Now on the world side, actually Allendale has some very important points to make regarding the Chinese situation. USDA number one left the Chinese corn production unchanged from the previous month's estimate at 215 million tons. That's quite a surprise to us, considering the fact that the Agriculture Ministry, the Chinese Ag Ministry, actually suggested their crop at 210 million tons, actually as recently as this morning. So on this one, USDA in future reports will be lowering Chinese corn production. So that's a positive for some point in the future. Now, as far as today's discussion, well, they helped out their situation a little bit by raising the Chinese domestic demand by 2 million tons, reflecting the Chinese government's plans to raise corn for ethanol. So as far as corn as a whole, call it maybe slightly bearish from the U.S. numbers, but keep in mind we have this looming Chinese production change and also the very strong soybean influence as well. Now on that soybean influence, I got to point out the numbers were positive here. Old crop stocks were lowered from 345 million bushels to now 301. That was of no surprise to the trade. We knew about that due to that September 29th grain stocks report. Now, as far as new crop, USDA started out by raising plantings by 700,000 acres. That was reasonable and was fully expected by Allendale due to the crop insurance data we've been discussing on our morning reports. So higher plantings, however, that was offset exactly by some lower yields. USDA lowered yields from 49.9, now 49.5 bushels per acre. So surprising to us here, production was left exactly unchanged with these two moves at 4.431 million bushels. With no changes on the demand side as far as the balance sheet, we have lower ending stocks for the old crop side, and also looks like production was left unchanged. That helped lower the new crop ending stock number from 475 million bushels to now 430 million bushels. Now, as far as numbers on the balance sheet, as far as soybeans on a world basis, USDA really actually dropped the stock number as far as world stocks from 97.5 to now 96.0. So a slight revision lower. Of note here, the Chinese number as far as soybean crush was raised by about 1 million ton. So this is a little positive as well. Over on the wheat numbers, looks like USDA made some changes there. They raised stocks on this current crop. Keep in mind, we're not looking at old crops that ended as of May 31st on the U.S. wheat marketing year. So USDA raised the ending stock number from 933 million bushels to now 960 million bushels. This primarily was made not really much of a change in production. That was seen on that September 29th small grain summary. So production was raised by a very mild 2 million bushels on this report. But USDA did go ahead and drop the number as far as feed and residual by 30 million bushels. So a little bearish influence from the wheat discussion here. And on the world side, well, that actually continued there as well. A bearish number as far as wheat numbers. 463 million tons was their previous world ending stock number, now 268 million tons. A 5 million ton change is actually pretty dramatic for USDA's numbers on a month-to-month basis. Now, as far as how they got to it, they raised production in a lot of areas. The European Union was up by 2 million tons, Canada up by a 500,000 ton, India up by 2.4, looking over at gains for other FSU nations, and also Russia separately, gains there as well. So increased production across the board. Only one decline here for Australia. Certainly not enough to change the picture here. So as far as today's report, this was more or less, you'd call it maybe slightly negative on the core numbers if you look at just the U.S. balance sheet. However, looking at the world numbers, we call it neutral as a whole because we still have that looming change to Chinese corn production. Soybean numbers were certainly supportive, both on the U.S. side as on the world side, and wheat was a little negative here. But given the influence from corn and soybeans, probably won't be impacting the trade too much. If you have any questions about this market, about marketing in general, give Allendale a call, 1-800-262-7538. Thank you.